Globalization has become a very vital part of the world up to date. Its acceleration has made people of the world to become more independent in terms of world's economies, cultures, political, and populations, brought about by a cross-trade in goods and services, technology, people, information, and flows of investment. Because of globalization, the gaps between and among countries are now closer, to which the globe is now becoming more available and more familiar into our minds and emotions. All of us now are part of globalization. But did you even think of what causes the explosion of globalization? Did you even consider the disadvantages and advantages of having globalization into our lives? Well, that is what we're going to talk about today. We are going to discuss the reasons that gives rise to this phenomenon as well as its ability to bring about a result into our society. We have here the problem 3, which emphasizes the causes and effects of globalization, and it will all be explained as we go further. So, on the causes, we have the improved communication technologies, growth of multinational corporations, information technology, improved transportation, and trade liberation. While on the effects, we have the green color that represents the positive effects, which is the cheaper prices of goods, promotes world peace and unity, market expansion, improves global productivity, creates employment, and reduces cultural diversity. While on the red color that represents the negative effects, we have job insecurity, uses of global identity, global competition, and damage to natural resources. Causes of globalization. First, we have the improved communication technologies on the social and cultural aspect. One of the major causes that assisted the rise of globalization is the emergence of communication technologies into our lives. Because of their improved communication technologies such as the computers, mobile phones, tablets, etc., the interconnectedness of people are stimulated because they allow us to access information around the world. Of course, this is possible through the presence of the internet, in which it gives us the opportunity to ingress into social networking sites or websites. For instance, in social and cultural aspect, communication technologies had provided a variety of ways of bringing people and cultures closer together. For example, if we want to know about other countries' culture or if we want to learn other language, we need not to go to that certain place anymore. With the help of internet, we are able to access websites such as Google Chrome where we can find information about other country. Another example is that internet provides access to the same music or entertainment whether you are in China or America. See, for example, if you want to watch your favorite K-pop group or favorite Korean drama, you can access them using internet in order to enter to other social networking sites or websites, such as the YouTube or Facebook, which is mainly one of the means where we can see uploaded videos or music of different cultures or countries. So, even if you're from Philippines, you still get the chance to watch other countries' movies or explore other cultures with the assistance of internet and other social networking sites. Additionally, through communication technologies, it is given that people can also make new friends around the globe via social networking sites where people can share and exchange information together, which establishes more the interconnectedness of people and culture that emphasize then the concept of globalization. Second, the improvement of communication technologies under economic aspect. Of course, with the help of communication technologies, information technology through the assistance of global internet has aroused. It has also contributed to the acceleration of globalization. For instance, because of the developed communication technologies, there is the existence of information technology. And among the reasons why globalization is growing at an accelerated pace is the presence of information technology. IT is a major accelerator of globalization due to its unique support for remote transactions and marketing. That is because IT makes it possible for companies targeting a global customer base to reach these customers encountering many problems. This is usually done by advertising on the internet. IT has also enabled interconnectivity of management information systems for branches of the same company located at different sector. IT is suspected to be the single largest main contributor to globalization that is decade and thus its contribution cannot be exhausted. Third, we have the trade liberalization. So, trade liberalization removes or reduces the barriers to trade among countries, such as the tariffs or quotas. So, having fewer barriers to trade reduces the cost of goods in importing countries. Trade liberalization and the lessening of government regulations, restrictions, and investment policies in an economy has helped the globalization process by making foreign trade and investment easier. Thus, liberalization has led to further spread of globalization because now businesses are allowed to make their own decisions on imports and exports. So, because of trade liberalization, companies are now encouraged to invest with other countries. Thus, increase of trade deals means there are more imports that leads to increased consumer choice and the reduction of prices. And more trade can also strengthen the ties between trading partners and promote peace, security, and growth, which highlights more the interdependence and interconnectedness of people between the trading countries.
Next is the improved transportation. When we see the word transportation, it is the industry that connects other industries, and it is evident as a key to fueling globalization. Advances in freight transportation like the steam locomotive, steamship, jet engine, and container ships have been a major cause of globalization, which generated further interdependence of economic across the globe because of easy and safe movement of goods. Developments such as containerization for ocean shipping allows companies to ship large products more efficiently, thereby decreasing cargo costs, helping to fuel globalization process. By sharply cutting costs and enhancing reliability, container-based shipping enormously increased the volume of international trade and made complex supply chains possible. Next, growth of multinational corporations. Multinational corporations is a large company that operates in several countries. So we, as a consumer worldwide, use similar products or goods made by similar corporations. For example, products from McDonald's, Coca-Cola, or the Apple. So all of these companies are multinational corporations, and MNCs are known to largely drive the process of economic globalization. So now, the expansion of a number of MNCs dominated the global markets, aided by more open markets and low costs of transportation, large firms which they controls assets globally and make profits in billions of dollars, often rivaling the GDPs of several countries in which they operate. So the growth of MNCs gave people the opportunity to enjoy new varieties of things. The relocation of industry stimulated world trade and capital flow. So in other words, the increased integration of input, factor, and final product markets made by MNCs leads to exchange of investments, international trade, and foreign direct investments of various countries worldwide, which highlights the strengthening of relationship through economic cooperation between and among countries in which their products made leads to the interconnection between diverse countries. Thus, MNCs proved to fuel the globalization or economic globalization in particular.
The first positive effect of globalization is market expansion. Globalization created new opportunities, ideas, but more of opening new markets in the pace of economics. It created great opportunities for firms in less industrialized countries to tap into more and larger markets around the world. Globalization made it possible for countries and companies to have an access to a bigger consumer base. Instead of selling their products only in their country, they can extend it internationally through boosting their sales. This leads to more access of capital flows, technology, human capital, and cheaper imports and larger exports. Therefore, globalization allowed businesses in less industrialized countries to become part of the international production networks and supply chains that are the main conduits of trade. Second positive effect of globalization is cheaper prices of goods. The increase of production means cost reductions. Therefore, increase of trade deals means more imports leads to increase of consumer choice that results to the reduction of prices for companies. The economy grows as lower prices stimulate the increase of demand. This means that the larger the business, the lower its per unit costs. In short, economic globalization allowed companies to reduce their overheads by shifting their production operations from high cost to low cost countries. In a free market without financial barriers to international trade, these cost savings can be passed on to the consumer, driving prices down for many consumer goods. Indeed, consumers are undeniably the beneficiaries of this because globalization made it possible for people to buy things at a lower price. For example, I did some research and let's use the camera industry as an illustration for this matter. The camera industry illuminates the impact of globalization on consumer prices. In 2000, Japan exported the highest volume of cameras to international markets. By 2005, many Japanese camera companies had outsourced their manufacturing process to Chinese plants, and China had overtaken Japan as the world's biggest camera exporter. The same period saw camera prices fall by between 2% and 5% annually. By changing the source country and reducing labor costs, businesses can sell their product to consumers more cheaply. This allows more people to enjoy a standard of living previously reserved for the wealthy. Third positive effect of globalization is that it creates employment. Economic liberalization has made it easier for companies to relocate, allowing them to rapidly scale up jobs or new employment. It did increase the flow of goods, capital, and production across international level. Although on a micro level, some specific industry jobs in some economies have decreased in volume, but on a macro level, the number of jobs available across the globe is at a high record. Globalization has enhanced firms' abilities to relocate their production processes without obstruction or barrier. This allows firms to rapidly scale up and reduce overhead costs by outsourcing processes to nations with cheaper labor costs. This free flow of labor increases the total number of global jobs. Let's take, for example, the UK based bank. They decided to relocate its customer service operations to India. It hires 500 English speaking Indian workers to work in its call center, bringing 500 jobs to the Indian economy. The workers that lost their jobs in the UK would then go on to upskill and find work in other sectors. Even in nations with higher labor costs, globalization has a positive impact on job numbers. In the years before the 2008 financial crisis, researchers proved that economic liberalization and globalization were bringing jobs to developing nations with low cost labor. Highly open economies with high labor costs, like those in Scandinavia or Switzerland, did not see their unemployment rates increase.
The fourth positive effect of globalization is that it improves global productivity. Globalization improves domestic productivity through expanding knowledge. Allowing foreign imports increases competition, enhances the spread of knowledge across international borders. This foreign knowledge has allowed economies to adopt foreign industry best practices and increase productivity. The increased transfer of foreign expertise and knowledge led to an increase in domestic productivity. The International Monetary Fund or IMF estimates that globalization has been directly responsible for an increase of 0.7% annually in emerging market economies. In addition to exposure to foreign knowledge and expertise, the introduction of foreign competition in domestic markets has also served to improve productivity. As firms with more advanced technology and productivity enter a market, domestic firms are forced to develop strategies to match their productivity. This is a clear advantage as productivity growth is the strongest driver of long-term economic growth of the world. Next is the reduced cultural diversity. Because of globalization, there is cultural homogenization. For those proponents of globalization, they consider the highlight of cultural homogenization as a positive outlook because it reduces cultural diversity between and among countries as people continue to accept other people's culture into their own culture. It also emphasizes the enhancement and promotion of one's cultural identity that increases and builds a stronger understanding and better relationship with other countries. And lastly, globalization promotes world peace and unity. A state that is more dependent on another is not likely to engage in actions that could lead to conflict with that state. In those nations, the business elites who stand to lose the most from trade disruptions will also lobby the government to avoid conflict or military aggression against a trading partner. For instance, due to globalization, there is an increase of world trades, agreements, and political cooperation, and the positive effect of this is that it strengthens the ties between trading partners and promote peace, security, and growth. Also, it is unlikely that a country trading a lot of products and services with another will attack it or want to go to war with it. Also, recent study examined interstate military conflict between 290,000 and 40 country pairs between 1950 and 2000. It concluded that the higher the interdependence in bilateral trade between the country partners, the lower the chance of military conflict. Therefore, as globalization continues to arise, the stronger the world will become unified.
Now, let's also discuss about the negative effects of globalization. First effect, we have damage to natural resources. One of the major impacts of globalization is its underlying damage to the environment. The massive development of transportation for trade and importation of goods and other resources has been a driving force and the major consequences of globalization, especially on the pace of economic growth, which also became responsible for serious environmental problems such as greenhouse gas emissions, global warming, or air pollution. Because of economic growth and industrial productivity, both contributed to the depletion of natural resources, deforestation, and the destruction of ecosystems and loss of biodiversity. See, for example, if there is a large scale of industrial production and circulation of goods, that means more transportation and manufacturing technology needs to use more fossils, which causes pollution to the environment, leading to accelerate a serious threat of climate change. Another negative effect of globalization is global competition. Global competition emphasizes the competition between multinational and local companies in terms of economic growth that leads to certain advantages and disadvantages to both parties. We all know that multinational corporations is also one of the essential things that fuels globalization, which really shrinks the world into a smaller one. The increase of multinational corporations into various countries is a struggle for local companies because they need to compete with them in terms of products and prices in order to stay in the business. Multinational companies are expected to advance in terms of products because they often bring better and more advanced products into local market, and resident companies must adopt equivalent company technologies and products that is matched with them. Since multinational companies have more resources at their disposal, they can explore new markets and other strategic way for selling their product in the host country. These markets are usually inoperative for local businesses. Multinational companies also create more products and receive more revenues because they are expected to excel in terms of labor force. This is because multinational companies offer better wages for highly skilled workers for more better and increased productions. This can be advantageous for resident companies because they have the much better wage scale to prevent employee turnover in their own operations. On the other hand, global competition also results to price fluctuation because of financial instability. Since multinationals frequently sell better products which are often cheaper than those local businesses, local companies need to lower the prices of their product in order to compete with the prices for the same product coming from multinational corporations. For local companies, reducing prices will have a consequence on their profits, which may possibly lead to actions like laying off workers or may force some local companies to close. Next is job insecurity. Since I already mentioned a while back about laying off workers, loss of job security is also one of the negative effects of globalization. Although in the positive impact, we mentioned that globalization creates jobs, there are also ways on how globalization creates a job insecurity in other countries. This only proves that globalization might not somehow applicable for other aspects. International supply changes the network that turn the raw materials into finished items, produce and distributes goods for more quickly and cheaply than ever. But the pace of technological innovation, which is a cost of globalization, has led to the automation of manufacturing processes, which eliminated some handmade production jobs. For instance, in line with production, instead of companies using a lot of manpower, which costs more wages for more workers, they'd rather invest to manufacturing technology for a quicker and cheaper production of products in order to boost efficiency and increase profits. This leads to firing workers that results to unemployment. Also, Globalization provides a double-edged sword when it comes to jobs. More trade opportunities and technological advances mean many corporations choose to ship their operations to countries where the labor and natural resources are cheaper. This can be beneficial for developing countries who provides cheaper manufacturing jobs. For example, many companies are setting up in India and China because wages and manufacturing are cheaper. This means fewer opportunities in developed worlds, and the individuals and companies that can take advantage of international resources experience outsized gains, which widens the gaps between the rich and the poor. In short, globalization takes jobs from one country and provides them to another. That results to job insecurity and extreme needs of employees in other countries. Lastly, we have loss of global identity. Because of the continuous development of communication technologies, it had provided a variety of ways of bringing people and cultures closer together on the aspect of cultural globalization since information are now becoming more available and free access worldwide. For instance, if not because of communication technologies with the presence of internet, K-pop or other foreign music and entertainment would not be feasible to access. Communication technologies had helped people to spread and promote other cultures. And because of communication technologies, we are able to know these certain cultures that may catch our interest, which are uploaded in the worldwide internet. For a more specific example, let me share my own experience. When I'm still not a fan of K-pop or foreign entertainments, I like Filipino culture that much. However, with the help of communication technologies, K-pop, Korean dramas, and Korean idols were introduced all over the internet, which became trend worldwide. This resulted to the change of my choices in terms of fashion, music, entertainment, as well as views and preferences because I was influenced and got interested with Korean culture. In relation to the loss of global identity, if people continue to patronize, emulate, or incorporate the foreign element into their image or themselves, it may lead to the deterioration of our own culture and identity, which is evidently happening right now in the Philippines because I see a lot of people who stand so much Korean idols. This may result to culture domination. Additionally, in the economical pace, for instance, websites such as YouTube connect people across the planet. As the world becomes more unified, diverse cultures are being ignored, and this is because of the multinational corporations that creates a monoculture as they remove local competition and thereby force local firms to close.
So that's all for today. I hope you learned something and thank you for listening. Please don't forget to like, comment, share this video and subscribe my channel for more video updates.